So this is the third installment on chapter 13 on energy resources, and this one we're going to talk about oil. So oil is one of the bigger ones, the non-renewable that we talk about in this course. And finding and extracting oil is what we do and what we've been doing for a very long time. Um, and we're coming up with new techniques to kind of make it easier for us to find oil. Peak production is what obviously the oil companies want. But as we build these oil fields and things, eventually production will decline, and it makes it harder. And that's when we start looking at ideas like fracking. And once crude oil is pulled out of the ground, it can't be used that way, or it's typically not used that way in most applications. So what they do is they have to refine it, and refining it actually takes energy. We will. What I want you to think about is, their question is, you hear people say, when will we actually run out of oil? Um, and we never will. I'm going to just be honest. We're never going to run out of oil. There will always be oil in the ground. What will happen? We will run out of usable oil. In other words, it will get too expensive to pull out of the ground. So we will never use it all up, but we will use up the stuff that is easy to get out. But it'll become too cost prohibitive to take it all. So we need to look at other ways. Do want you, and this isn't really in your book, which surprises me, but I want you to know about OPEC. Founded in September 14, 1960 in Baghdad. And it's a group of countries that really kind of control the oil and oil prices. And so you can see that there are 14 countries. I'm counting. Yeah, still 14. Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't screw that up. 14 countries, or 13 members of countries, actually, what they're saying here. And so what happens is, you can see a few countries have left, but they control a big portion of oil, and they have huge reserves. And what happens is they pretty much kind of set oil prices. And they also set how much is going to be produced and how much is going to be released. And so on the right hand side are some numbers that I think are good for you to know. Is that unfortunately what happens is we use more oil than we produce. And so that is some of the politics you see now, where we want to do more drilling in our country. So we are not dependent on other countries for oil. We import now 24% of the crude oil. Back in 2005, we were importing 60. And so that was a huge problem, that we were bringing in so much oil. And so, it seems obvious then that, yeah, we should try to increase our oil supply so we're not dependent on other countries. But the problem with that is, it's not the right thinking. It's we should reduce our use. We use about 20% of the world's oil, and we only produce about 13%. And we only have 3.2% of the world's crude oil reserves. That is not a good combination. So what we need to do is pull ourselves away from oil. So conventional oil, the advantages: ample supply for several decades, although it's not renewable. It's kind of net energy is medium, but it is decreasing. Low land disruption, depends on who you talk to, but the drilling part, although we kind of destroy the top, we don't dig it up like mining, which you also see videos on. And we're really set up. That's our infrastructure. So it is an easy thing to use. You can see All right. Let's also talk about other oil possibilities. There are different ways we can use things. So we can get liquid oil out of the ground. We can use shale oil, which is what we're using the fracking for. But net energy yield is low. It costs a lot to get it out. And that's what you're seeing over on the right. Now, when oil becomes more scarce or the price drops, it becomes more feasible. And so you'll see us do it more. And then we can have tar sands or oil sands. I know them as tar sands. It's the same thing. And it's oil mixed with clay, sand, water, and bitumen, a bunch of stuff that you have to definitely remove. And you can see a tar sand um, pit over here where they're taking out sand. And this is in our country. This is I forget where it is, Wisconsin or something like that. I think Minnesota. All right, so let's talk about the Keystone XL pipeline. We're going to do this in class also, so I'm not going to go over it heavily here, but we'll do it during our Zoom session. It was a controversial plan, and basically Canada has lots and lots of tar sand, so the idea was to get oil from there down to where it's needed in the United States, and you can see we're pretty much shipping it to Canada. From Canada to Texas, and you can see the different pipelines that are there and kind of what they wanted to do. Okay, so the problem. And here's the problem. Here they're kind of showing you what's going on. And coming right there all the way down here and eventually into Texas. Some of it is actually being built or has been built. But if you notice, huge problem, it goes right up and over the largest aquifer in the United States, one of the largest in the world. And that is a huge problem. That is a disaster waiting to happen. There has been proposed alternating routes trying to go up and around a little bit to stop this. And it's been sold as a job versus environment. And we're going to talk about, they actually went after Obama, trying to get him to force him to make a decision on this at the end of his terms. And I'll just let you know that right now this thing is shut down. As of July 6th of this year, it is now in the courts, whether it will be shut down or not. So very, very controversial. Not sure we're needing it. But again, what they're trying to do is build this infrastructure so we can continue to do this for years and years to come. All right. So local principle 149 is easier to prevent degradation than it is to repair damaged ecosystems. We're building all this. We're waiting for disasters. Maybe if we don't build it and we switch, we can prevent all this degradation, and we don't got to go back in and repair from oil spills, things like that. And so here are the tar sands, heavy oil from tar sands. I mean, huge supply, obviously. And it's easy to transport, and again, works with the system that we already have. But it is expensive and highly pollutant, and probably not a good idea. And with that, we'll stop the share and stop the recording.